Mine isn't going to be that good, so. All right. Hey, everyone. My name is Jack Agema, for those that don't know me. I'm here to introduce the one and only Mr. Adema. Even though we both look alike with a hulking, almost crazy physique, beautiful facial hair, and our names even sound alike, we are in fact not related. But here, these are the need-to-knows about Mr. Adema. First, he buys all his shirts from Dan Flashes because of the cool, complicated patterns. His favorite meal is sloppy steaks at Trufandi's, and while he currently drives an 04 Camry, his dream is to drive a hot dog car. But all jokes aside, Mr. Adema is a cool dude. He's a dream teacher. He is passionate about all the units he teaches, from biology to media discernment. He cares. He cares about all his students and the experience he gives them. He wants his students to enjoy learning and to see it as applicable to their lives. And most importantly, he integrates faith into all that he does, because he wants to show his students that all of life is an act of worship. So here, give it up for Mr. Adema.
Thank you for that introduction, Jack. This guy, even tonight, still hanging on his desk. You gotta respect. Basketball time. All right. Who is it? Okay. Now these are all out of order. Thank you for letting me speak. Have a nice life. Please clap. That's later, that'll be later. Which brings me to my 13th point tonight. Here's a note to myself. They are probably laughing with you, not at you. You don't have to take my word for it. Look at this black notebook. Okay, I found it. I know where it is. Oh, I'm Miss Radio, and the year was 2004. The Olympics returned to the site of their ancient origin, Athens, Greece. A sophomore at Harvard started an online social media network called The Facebook. The Boston Red Sox finally overcame the curse of the great Bambino and won the World Series. And George Bush defeated John Kerry during his second term as president. And something more important than that happened in that year. According to Power School, 48.6% of you were born. But you don't have to take my word for it. Look at this graph. Now, I can hear some disappointment from the class of 2023 because I think they were expecting Nickelback to look at this graph. But it's a graduation speech and we're going to keep it classy today. So let's move on to the next slide.
Look at this graph.
If you guys are going to pay me to give the graduation speech, you're going to get look at this graph. Those are the facts. I get paid for this one. We'll talk later. Well, as I was saying, many of you were born that year. In fact, here are some of your baby pictures that are going to end up in next year's yearbook. Now, you probably don't know who these people are, so I put my Photoshop skills to work to give you a few hints. Up in the top left, from the adorable boy with a baseball cap. And if you give him a bat and a beard, that's one McKinney Myers. What an adorable, sweet, kind, gentle girl in the bottom left corner. But if you give her a hockey stick and a helmet, she will crush your soul into the boards. Tina Lambers. All right. And up on the right, we've got a bouncing baby boy in blue. But blue isn't the color you need. You need orange. All right. Gladly, birthday photo. And this one isn't in the yearbook, Carson, but every year this comes up in my Facebook memories. And I I can't believe that this sixth grade boy became an all-state basketball player is going to play in college. Now on the count of 9 apart, and I'll say this just for you tonight. Go home. Okay, now let's be quiet. No. All right. But something else happened in 2004. An obscure slang word that was popular in the chess community and the computer programming world became mainstream. Everybody began to know what the word meant. And that word was home. Not owned, but home. Here's an example of it being used in a video so you kind of get a sense of what it means.
Did you know that for every car crash, there's a car that gets pwned? Besides, people love cars getting pwned. For safety reasons, the drivers inside aren't getting pwned.
All right, I think you get there. There's about 5 more minutes of that, but we'll cut it off. Home means to be under someone's power or mastery. So hold on to that word. We're going to come back to it. Right now, then you can time travel again. The year was 1986. The top movie was the original Top Gun. One of the most popular TV shows, and my fave, was the A-Team. This inspired millions of boys to go into their garages, hammer a bunch of random junk together, and then attempt to escape. I pity the fool. Gas was only 89 cents a gallon. Oh, take us back to the 80s, please. And the Bangles had a hit song, maybe some of you will remember, Walk Like an Egyptian.
Walk like an Egyptian.
All right. Look at those hairdos. Please never come back in style. All right. But in 1986, I was a 5th grader at Westside. And every Wednesday after school, I'd trudge up the sledding hill and go to a church called Highland Hills Christian Reformed Church. Now it's called West End Christian Reformed Church. And I would go to a class called Catechism. And the year before I went, in 4th grade, and we had a teacher that we loved, Dr. Greenway. He was like our grandpa and our friend. He was a frampa. I don't think that's a word, but it sounded nice. But for reasons I don't remember, he was not going to be our catechism teacher for 5th grade. We were going to have Mr. Meekoff. And we didn't know anything about him, but we hated him. How dare he attempt to replace our beloved Dr. Greenway? Before the first catechism session, many of us were plotting ways to make his life miserable, as good Christian people do, I think. Some of the naughtier boys were imagining what his first name was. Not me. But Joel Garter, Bill Ridley, and I hatched a plan. Every time he asked us to write in our catechism books, we would break our pencils and then ask to sharpen them. Diabolical, if you ask me. So, Mr. Meekoff starts the first class and he says, open your catechism books and copy down question and answer number 1. Joel Garter's pencil breaks. Mr. Meekoff, can I sharpen my pencil? Sure, he says. As soon as Joel returns to his seat, Bill Ridley's pencil breaks. Mr. Meekoff, can I sharpen my pencil? Okay. As soon as Bill returns, my pencil breaks. Accidentally. Mr. Meekoff, can I sharpen my pencil? A longer pause this time. Sure. When I return, Joel Garter's pencil breaks accidentally a second time. Amazing. He says, Mr. Meekoff, can I sharpen my pencil? And Mr. Meekoff walks over. And at this point, we wish we knew now what we didn't know then, which you could probably say about a lot of things in everybody's life. Mr. Meekoff was a war veteran. He had lost a few fingers in the war. If we thought he was going to be intimidated by 3 idiot 5th graders, we had another thing coming. He took Joel Garter's pencil, stuck it under his massive thumbnail, and literally sharpened it into a writable point in front of us. This is what our faces were like. Then he leaned in and he said, I don't think these pencils are going to break anymore, do you? Now, that's a hard question to answer because we want to tell him, yes, he's correct, but also, no, they're not going to break, so we're just kind of going like this. And then I turned into my catechism book and I wrote down something I'll never forget. I wrote this down. What is your only comfort in life and in death? That I am not my own, but belong body and soul in life and in death to my faithful Savior, Jesus Christ. And that was the first day that I realized that I'm pwned. Okay. Now, I have some bad news for you, class of 2023. You're also pwned. You might think this night is about you, but it kind of isn't. And maybe you're thinking, oh, this is about our parents. They've faithfully and financially invested in our Christian education and driven us and cheered for us and prayed for us. But it kind of isn't. Or maybe you think it's about us teachers finally getting to see your successes and walk across the stage, and we poured blood, sweat, and tears into you, and that's a really weird phrase, but whatever. It kind of isn't. You see, this night actually belongs to God. It's his turn to be incredibly proud of the things you've done, and it's his turn to be hopeful and excited for the good works you're going to do that he's already prepared. The one who created you and then lost you not by his choice and then bought you back, this is his night. But you are at this moment where you do seem to have some choices, right? While you go to school or work or join the military, who you'll live with, when will you eat, what will you eat, when will you do your laundry? Can you do your laundry? Mom, help? Okay. So it's kind of depressing almost. It's a bummer for me to throw this up and say, you're not your own. It almost seems un-American, right? Aren't we the land of the free and the home of the brave? And what's up with that question? What is your only comfort? How is this a comfort? I just found out I'm not my own. That's not a comfort unless we're looking at it wrong. You see, it could be a comfort because if I'm not my own, then I'm not defined by the career I end up having. I'm not defined by the person I end up with or the accomplishments of my children or how much I make or what I wear or what I drive. It's almost kind of freeing in a sense. I am free to do the good works God has prepared for me to do. The one who bought me owns me. And there isn't any worldly standard that I can be judged by. That's incredibly freeing. But we're left with this question. If I'm not defined by all the things I do, then who am I? Well, Genesis is quite clear on that. It says, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness. Now, the Hebrew word for image, I can't pronounce Hebrew, but it's, I'm going to say silum. And it means displaying a likeness or having traits similar to. Now, we've been taught all the time God isn't a physical being, so we have traits similar to. We display his dominion over creation. We have the capacity to love, to forgive, to seek justice, to show mercy. We know all those things already. But there's another way to think about being made in the image. I learned this from an old Calvin College professor I had named Tom Thompson. Around the turn of the 20th century, these statues were dug up, and they were called salmus. Now, if you look at the consonants in there, you can see that they're the same because they come from the same root word that we translate as image. But a salmu is a physical representation of a deity to mark territory. They would create them, and then they would actually inscribe the deity or ruler's name, and they thought the essence of that deity lived in this salmu. And then they would place them in various spots to mark territory. What kind of a science teacher would I be if I didn't have a good example? So let's imagine this stage area is my territory. Then I would create a salmu like me. Perhaps He-Man, master of the universe. Okay. The blonde hair, the buff bod. I don't need to go on, do I? You can see it. All right. And I would place that right in front of the stage. He's so strong, he just topples over. We'll leave him like that. But that marks this area as my territory, and that has my essence or being in it. And that's kind of a unique way of thinking about the image of God. And as I thought about the class of 2023, people began to spring to mind, what type of Salmuz would you be? For example, here's a flying, talking donkey. How could that not be Calvin Opperly? I'm sorry, Calvin, you've been typecast. But God's going to take you, and he's going to place you in the world of music. And he's going to let everyone know that when they see Calvin, they'll know that this world of music belongs to God, these beautiful melodies and harmonies. They're God's, and they'll know that through Calvin. Or take this. It's kind of small, but this is the Energizer Bunny. And you know the slogan, it keeps going and going and going. And I'll be honest, I did not have this in my speech 2 weeks ago, but then I went to the honors convocation, and Carson Wilson won the Perfect Attendance Award. And Carson, we chuckle about that a little bit, but there's something sincere about that. There's a faithfulness, and there's a commitment, and there's a fulfillment of covenant that you complete. And it doesn't even matter where you end up. God's going to place you somewhere, and your faithfulness will remind people that God is faithful. Also, shout out to Eli Muller. He won the John Rittering Perfect Attendance Award, which is slightly different, but it's still nice. This is actually He-Man's tiger that he rode called Cringer. You'd be really scared and shy, not scared, but just to stay in the background. Didn't like to get involved in a lot. But when He-Man activated his sword, Cringer put on his power helmet and turned into Battle Cat, and he would roar, "What are we waiting for?" And he'd just run people right over. This actually reminded me of 3 of you. Of Josiah Campbell and James Daniels and Jake Neuenhaus. And you put a helmet on those quiet boys and they will run you right over. And God has taken you guys, has already, and will continue to place you on athletic fields. And when he does that, people will know these arenas belong to the Lord. And the way you have competed and developed your gifts is a reflection of God. I've got one more. This is so small you can hardly see it. I tried to find a nurse doll, but they were like $100. That's ridiculous. So this is a nurse Lego keychain. But if you press on it, light shoots out of the heels, so that's kind of nice. Well, this made me think of a number of you that I've had this year in class. People who want to work with other people, like Selah and Quinn and Ashley and Maddie and Allison. And God's going to take you and he's going to place you in hospitals and outpatient clinics and physical therapy places. And he's going to say, these belong to me. And the healing that people receive is from me. And the grace and the mercy and the compassion will reflect on who God is to the people you work with. Now, I wish I had the time to go through every single person here and imagine what type of Salmu God is making you and where he's going to put you. We don't have time for that. You need time to walk across the stage. So we've got to try to begin to wrap this up. I've told you what you are. You're pwned. I've told you who you are. I think you're a Salmu type of image. And it wouldn't be a Christian Reform type of message without 3 parts, right? We can't leave here without a 3rd part, little practical application. So the question is, for us, if this is what we know, how do we respond to this? And I had a hard time writing this part, and then you wrote it for me. I've been teaching for 23 years, all here. I've seen 23 class verses. The vast majority of them are asking God for blessing, which I think is appropriate and good. But sometimes the judgmental, cynical back part of my brain says, what type of blessings are we asking for? Like physical, wealth, easy life? But you didn't choose anything like that. You chose one of my favorite passages in the entire Bible, Romans 12, 1 and 2. I'm just going to read verse 1. But therefore, I urge you, brothers and sisters, in view of God's mercy, here's the kicker for us tonight, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice, Holy and pleasing to God, this is your true and proper worship, to offer your bodies as a living sacrifice. I wanted to thank you for bringing that to our attention, for pointing us in the right direction. Knowing that we belong to God and we reflect his image, this is the appropriate response. And this brings me to my 13th point tonight. Thank you for letting me speak. Have a nice life. Please clap.